Oh. Well, now I know how Taylor Swift feels. Welcome, everyone, to Flink Forward Berlin 2024. We're so excited to be here celebrating the 10th anniversary of Apache Flink with all of you today. So, with a show of hands, how many of you have been to a past Flink Forward event? Oh, yeah. And then how many of you were here way back when it all first started at the first Flink Forward event? Oh. So we have quite the opening session and event planned for you over the next 2 days. We'll talk more about what you can expect, but first, let's get this show underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ververica's CEO, Alexander Walden, and Head of Training, Documentation and Community, Dawn Lehman.
Have you seen Alex? Has anyone seen Dawn and Alex?
Alex, Dawn.
Really? Where are you guys? Yeah? Really? This is going to be a big change. Where's my voice of God? Tillman, maybe one more time?
Alex, hello, where are you? Please come to the stage now. Dawn, hello, hello.
Oh,
This
there's
is your
one.
final call.
Thanks for showing up, guys.
Hey.
It was actually very comfortable behind the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daylight.
A little nap backstage for a moment.
I wish.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to Berlin, everyone.
So, Alex, our theme is past, present, future. Don't we have a lot of tech folks in here? Do you guys really care about the past, the future? I know it's our 10th anniversary, Alex, but what's up with the theme?
I've seen a few hands going up on the very first piece of Flink Forward history, but then I was thinking, what better place than Berlin to learn about history? In Flink and in politics and history and everything. So I think the idea of today's and tomorrow's event is that we learn about where Flink and everything has been coming from, what we're doing today, and that's why we have to talk amongst each other quite actively and listen and exchange ideas, and then ultimately also think about where all of this is going to. Because Flink has had a long history. I mean, we said it, 10 years. I'll invite you to pay attention to some of the slides. You will find a mistake somewhere later, and I'll be pointing that one out as well. But
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Where we're going.
Thank you, Alex. I know just what you mean. When I think about these aha moments that I see folks have in the training, where they realize the power of Flink technology and how it can solve the streaming data use cases and challenges, it just reinforces how essential Flink's real-time decision-making and data analysis is across all industries.
Yeah, I think we'll be flinking a lot in the next couple of days. But yeah, thanks to all of you and many other people, I think Flink has become the de facto standard of data streaming. I mean, there's still some other specific use cases, but I'd say Flink is here to stay. Mm-hmm. I do remember going up on stage in San Francisco some 2.5 years ago, or whenever it was, and it's like not quite there yet. So over the last 2 years, things have quite changed in the industry as well. Mm. It's rising to popularity, and ever when I see that queue rise, I think about fall. No, it's not going to fall. It's going to stay there for quite a while, even though it's 10 years old, or even older as we learn later. It is actually relatively fresh and brand new technology in there. And there's going to be some things about the freshness that we're going to announce later too.
Absolutely. And speaking of changes in the world of data streaming, did I see you on a panel, a NASDAQ panel, talking about the impact of AI?
You might be hallucinating. No. Yes, I did. I mean, it's AI everywhere, and I wanted to change my name from Alex to AI. But for me, the importance is not what we really see on ChatGPT, that's kind of end consumer type things. It's what we can do for our companies and those who employ us typically to generate some value out of it and get people to believe into it. I can show you the latest and greatest script, but people still have to believe into it. And that's why I think AI is an important thing, and that's also where at Flink Forward, I think we'll be talking about how we can make AI better.
Absolutely. And the Flink machine learning technology is really the cornerstone of our unified streaming data platform at Ververica. It really enables us to support a wide range of AI applications.
Totally. I mean, there's a thing called Flink CDC, Change Data Capture. I think it's one of the most underrated Flink features. You can use it for many, many different things, including AI, but also just stupid things like just capturing data change. But it's something we donated back to the community, I think, in April sometime
That's
this year.
right. And we were so
feel free to use it.
Yeah, we were so excited to donate it because we knew doing so would really broaden its impact in the field of data integration. This donation will also benefit from the contributions and the collective wisdom of all of your efforts in the global community. And all of you contributing to Flink, you share in the success and the future of Flink and the technologies and the ecosystems, from bringing insights and sharing your expertise to here at Flink Forward and elsewhere. So collaborating on code contributions is a huge impact. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you may have noticed that it's a community event because it's a register event with the Apache Software Foundation. But anyhow, too fast, too furious. I think we've briefly explained past, present, and future.
I think our job here is done.
Because I think there's more important things to hear.
Going.
Whoa, not so fast.
Why?
I saw the two of you. You two actually mentioned my favorite conference buzzword from this year, AI. There's actually going to be an entire expert panel dedicated to talking completely about Apache Flink and AI that's going to be happening later this afternoon in this room. So do check your agenda on your app and make sure that you don't miss that later on.
All right.
Now.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you. So now it's time to shift gears a little bit and hear from two people who know more about the history of Flink and better than anyone else.
Please welcome Stefan Ewan, co-creator of Flink, Apache Flink PMC, founder of Restate, and Feng Wang, senior director of engineering at Alibaba and Flink committer.
Thank you so much for joining us up here at Flink Forward today.
Thanks for having us.
So let's take a step way back in time to the very start of the Flink project. Did you know that, Stefan, you all know this, goes back to the very early days before Flink was even Flink. And Feng is one of the first early adopters that recognized and understood exactly what the impact Flink was going to have across the globe early on. So, Stefan, let's start with you and step through a little bit of the early history of Apache Flink also. Batch, let me catch up in real time. So when we spoke earlier this month, you mentioned that at the very start, there were 3 and more phases that the project went through before it became the Flink that we would all recognize today. Can you briefly share what was happening in 2009 with the academic research project at the Technical Institute of Berlin, right here?
Yeah. It all goes back to 2009. I was starting a PhD here at the University of Technology. It's funny enough, this brings us full circle. I think they actually have a campus here. Mm-hmm. And I was part of a group with a few other people. I think at least one of them is here as well. Fabian, I saw him earlier. The 2009 Hadoop was all the rage, and there was this fight. The database people were really upset. Hadoop throws away all the database knowledge, and then the Hadoop people were like, oh, we're the only ones who know how to build scalable infrastructure. And then there was this big fight, and a couple of sort of research projects emerged to say, like, can we try and marry both worlds? And this is what we also did in a stratosphere project back then in 2009. And that was really most of what we spent our time on, like, mixtures between these, like, new unstructured and Gaussian ML kind of big data and database work until 2014, really.
Yeah, let's actually take a jump into 2014, because that's when the Apache Software Foundation project kicked up. What happened during that very transitional year for you?
Yeah, so when we're done in 2014, the result of that project seemed actually nice. Like, it seemed too nice to just say, okay, look, it goes into an academic drawer and like done, and then that's it. And we thought, okay, we want to continue working on this. So first of all, we had to find a way to give it like a life after university. So we open sourced it. We met a few folks during that university time who were working in the Apache Software Foundation with two projects that I don't know if anybody still remembers them. Mahout for machine learning, Giraffe for graph analysis. But like, they really sort of told us a bit this open source way and gave us the idea, hey, why not open source it to the ASF? And then the only way to really keep working on it is to create our own company around it. And that's what we did. With, I think it was all in all maybe 8 people that came from the university, between like me and Fabian and Kostas, our postdoc. We took a bunch of students to like classical startups that dropped out of university to work on this. And we're trying to, so back then it was really this database sort of Hadoop hybrid, and we're trying to get funding for this to start building this project for real. It's a very, very painful experience. Nobody wanted to fund it because everybody was saying, like, look, the batch space is done with Hadoop and Spark and so on. Like, there's no way you're going to do anything in that space. And we wanted to do it anyways. And started this company in 2014. It turns out they were completely right. Like, nobody wanted to, like, very, very few people were actually interested in this, like, batch system that we built that, had a few interesting advantages, but, like, the space was just taken. So 2014 was a little bit of a depressing year. Like, all the work on batch we did kind of amounted to nobody's interested in that, which is kind of ironic right now, because if you look at the development of Flink today.
Yes, I think as we know, Flink start with batch and succeed with streaming. Now Flink has been the de facto standard of streaming compute, but I think, in my opinion, in the next 10 years, in the next Flink will be the de facto standard of unified data processing engine for both streaming and batch. Because I think most of the users don't want the separation of streaming and batch, and they have the requirement to process the data in both streaming and batch mode. Yeah, and I think this story is happening in Alibaba. Yeah.
So we started with this batch system, and then in 2014 got really upset that nobody wanted to use it. And we, at the same time, we're running sort of a bit of a hacky project with 2 students from a university in Hungary, who were.
So when you and I actually spoke a month ago or so, you had mentioned that the evolution kind of started to happen around 2015, where it started to evolve into something that would be much more recognizable as Flink as we know it today.
Yeah.
So what changed in that hugely transitional year between? You mentioned something to me that I love, hacky prototype.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to allude to. We're starting this project with a couple of students to just put something like a stream event processing API on Flink, because one of the things it had from its database sort of influence is a pipeline execution engine, not really a streaming engine, but at least a pipeline engine, which made it a little different than most other projects out there that day. And I put this API on top of this, and it was basically just positioned against Storm. I don't know if anybody still remembers Storm as a system that was sort of like the first foray into the stream processing space. And it turns out, like, this barely worked at all, but like, people wanted to actually use it. That was interesting. So for a moment there, we were okay. Like, we've invested this years in batch, and now there's this hacky prototype on streaming, and folks actually do want to use it. So what do we do with it? Like, first of all, we had to figure out a way to make it actually work. And I think this was sort of I was always skeptical because I couldn't actually see a good way of this, like the streaming thing actually working out correctly. But at some point we had this like idea how to add the checkpointing and statefulness and like make all of this like go together with actually good throughput, latency, and consistency guarantees. And when that came, this became sort of like, okay, here's something really. And we really pivoted the entire company on this. And and pushed. And then in 2015, I think this is when first folks picked it up. I think 2016 was when
the two of you got to meet. Yeah. So it's important to mention that all of this happened not just one committer, one person in any of that. There were significant people that were contributing. Some key founders and early contributors are up, so quick round of applause for them also.
Yeah, one of the funniest things was that when we're trying to look through conference programs where we could talk about Flink and this new stream processing system, and we found the program of, I think you reminded me yesterday, I think it was Hadoop Summit San Jose 2016. Like Hadoop Summit, does that even, anybody still remembers that? And in this program, we all of a sudden found, Alibaba talking about how they're using Flink in some absolute insane scale for their recommendation system, something that we had never seen or thought of before. And we didn't even know what to do. At some point we said, let's just send them an email. We're really shy about this. Look, this giant company and so on. And, but let's do it anyways. Let's just say hello. And then, we basically met Fang.
So at this point, it sounds like Flink and Alibaba finally meet.
Yeah.
Yep. So Feng, when you first heard about Flink, why did you decide to invest so early on? Because you were an early adopter in that open source tech.
Yeah, so I think, thank you, Karen, can give me a chance to introduce the background of why Alibaba chose Flink. Yeah, because my first met with Flink happened in 2015. Yeah. After maybe the first year after the donation to ASF. And at that time, Alibaba's business has been fast growing for many years, and there's lots of data generated on Alibaba's e-commerce platform. But fortunately, Alibaba has put a lot of resource in years to successfully build an offline data platform already. Mm-hmm. But in order to unlock the value of the data further, Alibaba wants to build the next generation of data platform for real time, for streaming, to make a better data freshness for the business. Yeah. For example, for the search and ads team, they wanted the user profiles, user feature, user models could be updated in real time. Yeah, then they can recommend more suitable products to user. Yeah, and also for the BI reports, the management team also want to see all the reports could be updated in seconds, not daily. So yeah, there are a lot of cases. So to meet the new demands of the better data freshness, so my team began to build the new generation of the data platform, the streaming data platform. So we invested a lot of technology in open source community, including Apache Storm, Spark Streaming, and Flink. But finally, we choose Flink as our choice. That's best. We think it is best choice for us. Yeah.
So I remember that you were talking about also the in-house version of Flink that you started with was Blink.
Yeah.
And then those merged. Can you tell me more about the history behind Blink and the decision to merge those two and go with Flink?
Yeah. So just now I shared the background of why Alibaba chose Flink. But how to land Flink in production in Alibaba in such big scale was also a big challenge for us at that time. So because in early stage, Apache Flink is not so mature as present. So we need to do something to make it production ready. That is this reason why we established our private branch of Flink. We name it Blink. Yes, and Alibaba had invested a lot to it. For example, we put more than 50 engineers to this project to polish it. So I'm curious about that. How many guys at that time for Apache Flink, open source Flink?
Yeah, you may have seen it on the previous slide. The open source was mainly driven by that amount of people, which was, I don't know, let's count them, maybe 12 also. So you have to imagine we're very surprised when we first also visited the folks in Alibaba, and we saw okay, we have this open source project driven by 12 people, and then somebody runs a fork with 50 people or so, which is, I don't know. It was probably even more.
Yeah, maybe more. It's just more than 50 engineers and other roles, product and marketing and other kinds. So yes, I think this Blink has made a very, very fantastic business progress in Alibaba. So then Alibaba make want to invest more to Flink. Then at the beginning of 2019, Alibaba announced the acquisition to Data Artisan, Stephen's company, the previous name of Ververica. Yes. Then Alibaba make another big decision to contribute the Flink version, Flink branch to open source Flink. Yeah, that is a very huge work because Alibaba streaming computing team contributed about 1.5 million lines of codes to Flink, open source Flink community. But I want to say thank you to Stephen and Stephen's team to help us to make it. I think without the help of the founding Ververica data as founding team, we cannot make it. So thank you to all the founding team of Ververica. I see Fabian, Timo, and also sit here. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. So let's shift gears a little bit. You currently run Apache Flink at the largest production scale in the world. What does that actually mean, and what types of numbers are we talking about here?
Yeah, so as I know, Alibaba is maybe one of the biggest adopter or user of Apache Flink in the world globally. Yeah, and also the biggest driver and contributor of Apache Flink. So Flink was launched in the first time in 2018 in Alibaba Group. And then it was positioned as a unified stream platform, the whole Alibaba Group. From that time, Flink began to support all kinds of businesses in Alibaba Group, range from e-commerce, logistics, online travels, and maps, etc. All kinds of business, very big scale. So up to now, Alibaba streaming platform on top of Flink has been running on, I think, millions of cores, CPU cores, across tens of data centers globally. And during the peak time, it could handle billions of records per second in real-time mode. So I think it's maybe the biggest.
That's amazing.
Biggest scale cluster in the world. Yeah.
That's amazing to hear about the events that have led us all to this room today. There was another question that I wanted to ask you guys about, which is, we've been in the past for this, but tell me a little bit about what it means and how you're continuing to contribute now. So what happened after Flink, particularly for you, Stefan?
Yeah. The Flink journey was extremely rewarding, and for me, a fairly long journey overall. From you saw it started in 2009. I was actively working on Flink till 2022, and it was very interesting because it started with batch, then streaming, then unified batch streaming. There was always like more evolution. It's a very sort of it's a technology that's still like very much evolving every year. But also after 13 years, we started looking at, okay, what else is out there? And I switched 2 years ago to a new project that I'm going to speak about tomorrow. Which is kind of, I would say, a spiritual sort of twin or mirror image to Flink, if you wish. So we're always looking, me and some other folks that worked on Flink before, if we want to do something, how can we do something that's sort of related but not competing? Because we absolutely did not want to compete with Flink in this community and so on. So we started basically building the complement that says, okay, where Flink does the analytics, we're now doing the transactions, and let's see how that turns out.
And that's the breakout session that you have tomorrow. I'm going to read this one to get it right. Apache Flink to restate event processing for analytics and transactions. Yeah. So I want to thank both of you for joining. Any last words that you'd like to share with the audience?
So you mean after Flink, Alibaba, so Flink make a huge process also in Alibaba Group internally from a business perspective. But currently, we also want to invest or put more resources in new project. I think Lakehouse is the best choice for us because Lakehouse is the next generation of data architecture. More and more users want to migrate from data warehouse to data lakehouse. But the Lakehouse now is not so real time. I think it's very similar to 8 years before. As me. So we want to make new technology. So last year, we donate a new project named Apache Pymon to Apache Software Foundation. I think in the future, we can make a lakehouse more streaming and the data movement more faster on lakehouse. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. I know there's some more sessions coming up on that as well. So, Feng, you'll be here throughout the duration of the entire event. I know you will be as well. Do come up and meet them. They'll also be at the PMC panel that's going to be happening tomorrow morning. At breakfast, you'll be able to identify the PMCs, ask them any questions that you might have, as well as an expert panel session that will be happening here tomorrow at 9 o'clock also. So both of you, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it so much, and thanks for sharing the story of the past of Apache Flink.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I think this next part that's coming is probably going to be my favorite. We're going to hear from some of you that are using Flink right now, and we want the full story, the good, the bad, the ugly. So let me invite our moderators for this next upcoming session.
Please welcome Ben Gamble, Field CTO at Ververica, and Chris Horsnell, Head of Strategic Alliances at Ververica.
Come join me, guys.
Hey, Karen.
Hello, two of my favorite bosses and coworkers. Are you guys ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
very ready. Sure are.
I'll be right over there for if you run over on.
You can be our timekeeper, yes. We got it.
I know the two of you.
Please welcome to the stage Sudha, Senior Technical Consultant at Uniper, and Sid, Senior Product Manager at Booking.com.
Hey, Sudha. Sid, good to see you. Sudha. Well, welcome to you both here. It's great to have you, Sudha from Uniper, and of course Sid from Booking. It's great to hear more about your stories and journeys of Apache Flink and Ververica.
I think we're going to kick straight into the questions. And the first question for both of you, and Sudha, will start with you. What is the number one way Flink and Ververica are making a substantial difference to your organization?
Thanks, Chris. I'm Sudha here. I'm working in Uniper. How we are using Ververica and Flink in our world is more, as you know, I think Uniper is a leading energy company which has activities across 40 countries, and its main focus is on power generations and the gas portfolios and others. So where we are using these Flink as a technology and Ververica platform is mainly in our real-time data processing and for having minimum latency in such use cases, especially in the trading business.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sudha. Sid?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, by the way.
You're welcome.
So Booking.com is a connected trip provider taking care of the end-to-end travel experience for the users, which includes transportation, accommodation, attractions, etc. As an industry leader, we deal with a huge volume of data every single day, which our security teams need to effectively protect our guests, partners, and the Booking's brand image. As a result of that, there are a lot of challenges that we deal with, which includes reducing risk, staying compliant, and also empowering our security engineers and analysts to respond to threats and different fraudulent attacks in near real time. Both Flink and Ververica has played a massive role in revolutionizing our booking security ecosystem by providing us the capability to process a huge volume of data with very low latency and operating at massive scale.
Excellent. So now we're going to jump into some questions directly here. And this first one goes to you, Sid, around what was life like at Booking before Flink and Ververica? What kind of technologies were you using for your risk department before that?
So security department within Booking was one of the early adopters for the Flink technologies, and we have been leveraging this streaming tech for quite some time. Over the years, what we have seen is the scale has increased. Before Ververica, we used to deal with Helm charts and shelf scripts to manage our workloads. And yeah, we know that involves a lot of operational toil, which has significantly reduced after the adoption of Ververica.
So the kind of the shift left attitude kind of helped a lot and kind of operationalizing things. Cool. And how has technology evolved at Booking in general? Is that kind of evolving to real time, kind of propagated across?
So yeah, I think for us, we all started with a small proof of concept a few years back. And over the years, what we have seen that massively we have incorporated a lot of complicated use cases into our platform. Right now, more than 15 teams within security are leveraging these streaming capabilities. A recent example of that I can think of is one of our security stakeholders moved from batch processing to streaming, and their detection time improved by 99%.
99%? That's quite impressive. It's always nice to hear these kind of numbers. The batch to stream transition is often extreme, but often you don't hear it until you see it in real. So Flink is a robust solution. What has enablement looked like in your internal teams?
So enablement has been focused on first providing the users the concepts of stream processing and their use cases. And we provide stakeholders an abstraction layer on top of the Flink technology to interact with to solve their use cases. We have invested a lot of efforts in providing comprehensive documentation, and also we conduct hands-on exercises, workshops, etc. And also we have received a massive support from Ververica team in general to help us in the troubleshooting capabilities.
Brilliant. So it's about a lot of internal developer experience, developer portals, and kind of building out that experience for your people. Thank you.
That's great to hear, Sid. Thanks very much. Sudha, coming to you.
Yeah.
Uniper is a leading energy company with
Yeah.
a strategy heavily focused on decarbonization and energy security.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of a use case that you're solving with both Flink and Ververica?
As mentioned previously, I think we are using majorly in the energy trading business, the Flink and the stream processing capabilities, and the trading is happening across multiple exchanges and platforms, and there's a business need to get the data, process the data, and present it in a unified format towards the downstream business applications. So the Flink with minimum latency, I would say that. So we are majorly using of the Flink capabilities of processing, enriching, and also aggregating in case it's the requirement, and splitting the data as per the business needs and the business applications. So that's the main usage, and also with minimum latency. That's the main thing.
It often is when we speak to customers. You spoke about data aggregation. Could you tell us how Uniper uses Flink for data aggregation in the context of energy dispatch needs?
Especially as I mentioned, when you trade in multiple exchanges, the data has to be consolidated to certain portfolios or certain based on your business need. So when you're aggregating or trading in a stock exchange, you actually, at the end of the day, you try to consolidate your positions based on what you have traded for certain commodities or certain portfolios. So that's wherein the aggregation is being used for.
Very cool. And what are the benefits Uniper experiences from using Flink and Ververica to, say, track sales, trading activities, and manage some of your data flows?
Yeah, I think it helped us to bridge the gaps between the old systems. I would say that systems that are component, big monolithic systems, as well as even the modern systems also, when you're building a new systems, you need a real-time fast processing capability. I think Flink is used as a bridging the gap between the two, as well as it provides us the Ververica in case it provides us the additional capabilities of monitoring your data flows, as well as resilience and recovery in case of any failures. So I see major advantage in these aspects for us.
Fantastic. I think, well, Sid and Sudha, that was very informative. I certainly learned a lot. I know that Karen's looking at me, but I feel like we may have a bit more time for more questions, maybe. Ben, I was thinking, as the expert on the other expert, by the way, on the panel, there's 3 of them. I don't include myself, that's for sure. Maybe you had some thoughts on what the 2 were saying there.
Yeah, so it's the kind of running theme here is about, firstly, going faster and bringing that kind of agility at both a data and a team level is kind of a recurring theme. Also, the ability to evolve forwards, the ability to connect to things that already exist without having to break anything, and then being able to evolve rather than having a revolution of everything. We've all been in those kind of large-scale migrations that take 1 year on paper, 5 years in reality, and 10 years later are still going on a little bit. So as kind of just an open question to the 2 of you, has that kind of evolution to real-time been relatively smooth with that kind of pub-sub nature of Flink?
So yeah, I think as you mentioned, one of the key challenges as you scale up, a lot of times your reliability get compromised. And this is one of the challenges most companies face. I think we have done pretty well so far. I mean, in ensuring that our stakeholders get that level of reliability. We have more than 250 plus workflows running in production, processing 25 gigabytes per second. It's a huge traffic that we are dealing with every single day. And I think why we have done that is because of the way we have architected the whole platform. At the same time, the level of the troubleshooting support that we are also getting from you guys helped us a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, as mentioned, I think for me, the better architecture, I think we have good architecture in our world, so in Unipub, so better architecture and the implementation, then comes the challenge of operations where you need to keep the system stable across the because the change is never ending. So it keeps changing, so we do adapt to the business needs as well as the support we get from Ververica platform is also in case of any operational issues. We do get right support, which helps us in dealing with the business critical incidents or problems. So I think that makes us a success in this.
That's great to hear. So it's all been about balancing the operational needs with kind of the business needs, having the ability to have a stable platform to build upon while still being able to meet the new challenges of faster moving data, more demanding customers. As we all know, customers never drop their demands. They only increase. And if we give them something fast today, it'll be faster tomorrow. So no one moves backwards. And that one true constant of change and that continuous evolution towards both real-time and very accurate data.
Yeah. Just before we wrap up with both of you, was there any kind of final comments that you had for the audience here at Flink Forward? Any key takeaways that you may suggest? Sudha?
Yes, in case of you would like to hear more about Juniper use cases, especially we'll be doing a deep dive on 2 specific use cases, which we have done it, and the business benefit that we were able to achieve. I think you can come over and listen to our session on Thursday. That's from me.
Fantastic. Sid?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think some of our colleagues are attending Flink Forward probably for the last 2-3 years, and every year they mentioned about some great takeaways. And yeah, I think this time as well, I met a few folks already, shared some of the insights that how we are solving stuff and how they are working in these kind of problems. I think it's been a great collaborative effort, and thanks guys for arranging this kind of conference for us.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Ben, any final comments before we
Well, for me, it's really a big thank you for both of you coming here, bringing your expertise, agreeing to speak to our community here. For us, it's not just about, hey, it's about us. No, it's about you. It's about bringing the experts together so everyone can learn from you and you can learn from them.
Thanks, Ben and Chris, for inviting, and thanks for providing this forum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you know, I hate to be the one to break up a good conversation, but we do have a lot of present that we still need to present.
We do.
What do you guys say we bring some of the partners up on stage?
From my perspective, I'd be very keen to do that, but that's a selfish view.
All right, I think we're ready for them. Let's take a look.
Please welcome to the stage Mark Pybus, Chief Data Officer at Evora, Eric Schmiegelow, CEO at HiveMind, Philip Yonoff, Avon's Head of Streaming Data, and CJ Go, Founder and CEO at Stream Native.
Eric, good to see you. Billy, good to see you.
At the end.
It's like musical chairs up here. This is fantastic.
Well, the music ended, so we now have to sit down. So, welcome all of you all. It's great to have you on stage here with us. And we're going to run through a kind of bit of an opening thing just to introduce you all and see how things are going. So, kind of an opening question where you can introduce what you do with Flink and your organizations. So, starting with you, Mark, at Evora. When we were speaking last, you were telling me about how you got to the 10th anniversary event for Hadoop and how times have changed since then.
Times have changed, and it's great to be here for the 10th party of Flink as well. And really, we're talking about the use cases of Flink. And at Evora, we just see so many industries and so many ways to use Flink. When you look at telecoms, it's powering the network centers there. In manufacturing, we're seeing it monitoring production lines and predictive maintenance. In finance, for fraud, for real-time trading. And then when you look across all industries, the use of Flink to service customers, to be able to do that more accurately, of course quicker, and more efficiently. And then there's retail. We see Flink powering the next generation of next best offer and next best actions. And what I would say, if you recognize any of those use cases, if you work in a different industry, if you've got other ways to use Flink, come and talk to us. We are here to listen to your problems and work out how Flink can fix those.
Brilliant. And Eric, at HiveMind, I'm kind of really interested to hear more about how you're doing this as well, particularly with the kind of transition from the batch to the real-time world with your experiences with Spark.
Yeah, absolutely. So the funny bit is that at HiveMind, we're a consultancy, right? So we're really in the trenches of making that transition happen with our clients, right? And what it is about mostly is to get off the batch paradigm, right? And most people have invested really a lot of money and time and effort in building those big, batch processing environments with a lot of Hadoop and Spark, and maybe not Hadoop anymore, more cloud stuff, but mostly Spark. And the problem is that nowadays everything is about near real time, and you can't do near real time that well with tools that were built for a different paradigm. So what is this about? It's about transitioning from batch to real streaming, and you need a framework that does that. That's where Flink comes to play, right? Especially in conjunction with Kafka, right? So that's what it's about.
And just step in. So I think, Philip, one of the wider questions we're thinking about is, certainly for the people in the audience, is when should users introduce Flink at their organization? And I know that you and Ben talk a lot about the cloud-native age.
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be here. So many familiar faces, so many friends here. Hi. But the simple answer to the question is, if you have time-critical decisions, you should have introduced Flink yesterday. When I say time-critical decisions, if you have use cases which are proactive in nature or actionable or predictive, there is very few things out there which can actually serve your purpose, and Flink is the most mature and most widely adopted solution for this. Now, if we look further down the time criticality of decisions, something which is very, very compelling, and I'm looking forward to talking more among ourselves here, is also the support of after-the-fact processing, aka batch, which of course we will be seeing in 2.0.
Absolutely. And CG, same question to you. When should the users here introduce Flink to their organizations?
Sure, my answer is quite similar, is yesterday. I was actually in Berlin about 5 years ago. I was presenting in Flink Forward. It's not in the same venue, but it's really glad to kind of come back to Berlin and also kind of meet a bunch of the old friends. The reason why I said yesterday is I was more coming from, I think Stefan mentioned about Storm. I was working at Twitter at that time. I think we see the value of stream processing. And obviously, I think Flink is a much powerful engine there. And so I think always when the question coming up as when is yesterday. You should adopt it if you want to get the data, get a real-time value outside of your data. It should be yesterday.
Yeah, really good points. Ben, I think you've got some more deep dive questions for Mark.
Sure, we have. And kind of to open this up, we've already talked about the changing zeitgeist, how things and landscapes and technologies we're all using have shifted quite significantly. And as we alluded to, a conversation about 8 years ago, there's that kind of thing where now it's 10 years of Flink and the environment has changed. And the capabilities required to process real-time data has evolved. So can you kind of walk us through your experiences of how the need for real-time data and then the technologies and the capabilities have evolved over the last few years? Mark?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was at the 10th birthday party for Flink. That was actually 8 years ago. So it is great being here now. 8 years in tech terms is a generation. Hadoop enabled us to store and to process what was then vast quantities of data. And it really drove the use of that data and generating value across organizations. It moved data teams from the edge of organizations into the center. And we started to hear terms such as data-driven organizations. Now, when we look at Flink, we are still able to do all of those traditional use cases of data, but we're now able to do them faster and do that on current data. But we're also seeing increasing use of data and stream processing. So what's happening now with Flink is that we are moving across organization, and there's barely any aspect of a firm that couldn't benefit and use Flink. In terms of the trends, we are now seeing the use and the adoption of open table formats, Apache Iceberg and Pymon in particular. So what that is now meaning is we are able to move on from the traditional data warehouses, from the data lakehouses now into the streaming lakehouse. But I think Flink goes well beyond that. The trend of adopting Flink into the operational and the transactional space, and starting to use and access that data much earlier. And of course, Flink, in the same way that Hadoop really powered and brought in the large-scale use of machine learning, what we are now enabling with Flink is the adoption of artificial intelligence agents and large-scale language models. So yes, 8 years ago was a different generation, and it's great to be here with so many people in the next generation of data processing.
So kind of almost to follow into that, you kind of mentioned that the big industry trend right now, that watchword of AI. Hands up here who's had to use AI in the last few weeks because someone told them to. Who used AI this week? Because I told them to in a training session yesterday. A decent number of you there as well.
Well, Ben, on that, I used AI from the airport to Berlin. And AI managed to get me lost, put me on the wrong platform, on the wrong train, heading the wrong way. So it's sometimes not quite there yet.
It definitely has that vibe yet. We're still in the early days, but to exact that kind of thing, and particularly using Flink and around that kind of shift left in data and governance, and especially with AI being the big horizon right now, have you kind of seen, what's the kind of trend you're seeing right now when it comes to like having that true data governance in real time?
Yeah, so we are seeing data shift left. And it's not only data engineering becoming streaming data engineering. What it also means is the ability and the need to apply data governance and data management earlier. And by data governance, I'm talking about applying data contracts, data access policy, having true end-to-end data lineage, and looking after your data quality. Now, that done well really benefits and increases the use and the utility of that data, and the ability to drive value from it. And actually shifting left with your data governance, that actually benefits the users of that data throughout the data life cycle. And of course, you need well-governed data. You need accurate and quality data to power the use of artificial intelligence.
It sounds like you're almost talking about the fabled data mesh we were promised many moons ago and never quite materialized. But kind of follow on from that, because this is kind of where we get to capability and what organizations are missing to take advantage of stuff. So how are you and Evora helping fill these gaps in capabilities in organizations?
So Ben, I've been here all week, and I was here for the training, and it's great seeing so many people here studying and learning Flink. But let's be honest, Flink can be difficult. Data at scale and data at speed has its challenges. Distributed systems overall come with their own problems. And also, Flink is popular. There are more experts needed. And when we look at the Evora Flink practice, that's where our Flink experts reside. And so where we help clients is understanding how they need to use Flink. It's architecting and building the Flink pipelines for them. It's dealing with the complexity it takes to actually provide great value out of Flink. Evora also works in terms of capabilities before that. We often work on data strategies, on the technical strategies and the business strategies to understand how an organization should bring in Flink. And I've talked about traditional data teams, Hadoop. We spend a lot of times helping traditional data engineers and data teams move into the streaming space to become data streaming engineers and to put in place that real-time streaming lakehouse.
Very cool. And Mark, for those that don't know Evora, where can they find you over the next couple of days?
So we are blessed. We have got about 8 people here from the data practice, from the Flink practice. You can find us in the main hall, near the food and opposite the Ververica stand as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Eric, coming to you. When I think about use cases that matter to everyone, one area that I hope the audience can relate to is that transition from batch to real-time stream processing. And I do recall a real-world story that you once told me, and it was about why saying goodbye to batch is important. Maybe you could elaborate on that.
Oh, absolutely, love to. The thing is that we have quite a lot of stories from our clients, and sometimes the insanity that they face every day to make things work and to make that transition from traditional enterprise systems and traditional data storage systems to something that gives answers when they're needed. So this particular story is really nice. It's a German story, because after all, this country is rooted in manufacturing. So this big manufacturing company, they had to ship materials to their clients, right? And they were deeply invested in SAP. And because it's SAP, right, when you wanted to share data, well, you just create dumps, right, scheduled batch dumps that you then post-process to another SAP system that does some other stuff, and then eventually you get your answers. The problem is that the use case that they were trying to address is to inform their customers when their materials would arrive. And because of the crazy problem of synchronization or orchestration of those batch runs, they'd inform their clients 3 weeks, I kid you not, 3 weeks after these clients received their parcels. It's really bad, right? So ultimately you think, why do you bother? You just send them a fax, right? It's probably quicker. But no. What we actually do here is to actually understand that these are real problems that people face and people have, and they need help. And the transition from batch to real time, that's the answer, right? That is really what it is about.
Fantastic. And I know Mark had already touched on the streaming lakehouse. I heard that out. It's probably going to be quite topical over the next couple of days. I was keen to understand how at HiveMind you're helping your clients transition from batch to the streaming lakehouse.
Yeah, absolutely, because that story's from the trenches, and because, you know, clients are prudent and they've invested a lot in those enterprise systems, risk is at the forefront of the considerations. So when you basically say, okay, we're going to make that transition to a streaming architecture, we don't just basically say, oh, we've got this awesome platform, it will solve all your problems instantaneously. That's a sure way not to get approval, right? You basically talk about risks, and you say, okay, we're going to focus on very specific use cases. What's the low-hanging fruit with the biggest pain point? And then you build an integrative approach where you say, okay, we're going to use techniques like CDC, we've mentioned that earlier. Change data capture is an awesome pattern to integrate existing legacy systems with traditional data sources like relational databases, warehouses, etc. And you focus on basically tapping that into that as its source, and you basically start creating a single use case implementation for the streaming approach. And then you demonstrate to the entire business that it actually works. They can, all of a sudden, they have a dashboard that basically updates every couple of seconds and delivers the actual dispatch numbers in logistics, like, you know, thinking of the client that I mentioned earlier. It's a revelation. They say, I didn't think this was possible. But yeah, yes, it is. And it's actually not that hard. So that's the way to go. Simple use case, and then build iteratively, bit by bit.
And pleasing your business stakeholders, which is always important. So in your experience, how does Flink specifically fit into the ecosystem?
So the way to tackle this, and circling back to my previous answer, which is how you de-risk this, right? The main aspect or the main trick is not to say, okay, we're going to build this cool application in this awesome streaming framework, yada, yada, yada. It's about composing your problem away first, right? So you say, okay, what what standard components can I use to distill the problem to a minimal residual effort, right? And the way to do that is obviously using standardized integration tools, which come with the Kafka ecosystem. Kafka and Flink are twins, that's pretty clear. You basically use Kafka Connect to tap into those systems, or use Flink CDC or Debezium, any kind of choice for CDC, to tap into those source systems. And you compose a workflow using these tools so that you can essentially de-risk the runtime and de-risk the effort. And Flink specifically is that one place where you build the actual stream processing application, either by using SQL, which is a great way to de-risk things too, or by actually implementing an application, a streaming application.
Thanks, Eric. Really cool.
Well, that was definitely enlightening. I'm now going to remember faster than a fax machine as my new logo for Flink. I definitely have experienced a lot of what you've described. I spent many years as a logistics CTO, and the real danger of not being faster than faxes has been a personal experience of mine, in fact. So, moving to you, Philip. So we've worked together quite a lot in the past, and I kind of like, when I kind of get the audience here to hear a bit about your experiences, because we've both seen that streaming is that dream for a lot of people, but it's not always a reality. And there's often a lot of blockers along the way. So in your experience, what is the most critical blocker to adoption? We love the promised land, but it's something in the way.
If you were to ask me yesterday, I would say complexity, complexity, complexity. But there are a few other nuances to this. There is also the unit economics, especially in the cloud, right? By the way, I'm a fully cloud enthusiast here. And of course, lack of certain features, which I will actually dive deeper afterwards. But let's focus on the complexity. If we start from the low, how do you deploy? There is a deployment complexity. There are a lot of choices you need to make up front. Then there is the operational complexity. How do you run it in, for example, in a high availability manner? And then there is the use case. How do you actually operationalize and really reap the benefits of these milliseconds decisions? And this drove a very interesting dichotomy, I call it dichotomy, because for the past almost 10 years, we have seen some of the biggest companies adopt Flink. And I think my personal hypothesis why the adoption was so strong there is because the sheer velocity of decisions they have to make per second. Think of the largest systems in the world, they sometimes need to make 1 million decisions per second. Think pricing engines, real-time recommendation engines. All of those things require speed which is impossible to achieve with a team of people, and actually Flink enables this. So it's not only about the value of decisions which the system needs to make or produce, but it's also the sheer velocity.
So yes, that kind of absolute decisions at scale, the complexity involved in that, and almost just aligning on the outcomes required to do this. And you're talking about a bit about democratization of stream processing now, particularly with the idea of, you hit on briefly there about cloud economics, and the ability for these very large organizations to bring this to bear is apparent. But when we get down to the rest of us, who don't have 1,000 engineers behind us, democratization is a big deal. And kind of like, can you kind of talk through a bit here about how you see this democratization being important?
Democratization for me is actually two components. The first one is unit economics, making the unit economics of Flink more, let's say, approachable, meaning that you can, because let's face it, Flink is a heavy hammer, right? You rarely really use the full potential of any given cluster for a simple join, right? But still, the join is actually the thing which, for example, your business requires. So we want to make sure that we want to match whatever the business case is to the specific, let's say, flavor, right, of the processing engine. That's number one. And number two is simply about lowering the barrier, right? Making actually the creation of those jobs, writing the jobs easier, simpler, more, let's say, accessible to wider range of users. And there was a statement somewhere I read, which I think it really resonates with today's discussion, is the new coding language is English with the LLMs, right? Why SQL only, right? It's a bold statement, I know, but at the end of the day, everybody should be able to work with Flink and create value for their businesses.
That indeed resonates. There was a while I heard that the new coding language was the PR or the ticket, and it seems like we're kind of coming full circle back to the product managers being able to do all the work again. But it's kind of interesting to hear about this because, like, we see this as well, the heavy hammer, the multiple APIs, where do you start simple, where do you start small, how do you get it in the door, how do you get value originally? So with that in mind, how do you help customers get over that hurdle today?
You know that I'm a product guy, right? And as a product guy, when I look at Flink, I focus mostly on the unit economics today. Figuring out how, because in the cloud, right, there are the three actually important primitives. It's the networking, it's the storage, and it's the compute. How do we actually prepare and create a product which actually takes the maximum from the cloud and transfers those benefits to the end customer, so that we can actually execute this simple join in the most cost-efficient manner while still retaining the maximum benefit of the Flink ecosystem and the capabilities under the hood. So this is number one. And number two is just the overall experience, right? And you know me, I'm a Kafka guy, right? So Kafka enables a lot of Flink when it comes to lowering the barrier. It's very easy to reason with a lot of our customers when they already have Kafka workloads, how Flink can actually help them. And this usually unlocks the right conversations, in my opinion, at this stage to kind of drive the next generation of adoption.
This is kind of an interesting parallel because there is that kind of two-stage evolution almost, where you're going from data on one side, streaming on the other. So streaming is often a first port of call is either a Pulsar or a Kafka, and then on the other side it's going from a Spark or a Hadoop to a Flink, and then that convergence in the middle. And just kind of one extra point here is a lot of us in the room here are still on our own metal or have strict requirements. So do you see that kind of convergence between the cloud, the metal, and somewhere in between happening?
I read very recently, I see a lot of posts of people going back to self-managed. I strongly believe that the cloud is just underutilized. And I'm working very hard with my teams actually to show the world that we can do a lot more with the existing cloud resources. Basically, we really want to create a situation where we bend the cloud to your will, versus the other way you bend to the cloud. Because let's face it, yes, of course, the cloud offers this kind of ease of use and reliability, rented reliability. But why should it be actually expensive? Let's lower this. Let's take the maximum from what we have.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thanks, Philippe. So CG, last but definitely not least, we come to you. You founded Stream Native, the original creators of Apache Pulsar. Eric spoke earlier about how Kafka and Flink work incredibly well together.
Sure.
You may have a slightly different opinion, of course, with Pulsar, but I know we've been working a lot in the last couple of months. For those that weren't aware, we had quite a big announcement last week. Stream Native are our inaugural partner as part of the Powered by Ververica program, which we're really excited by. And given that, I think it'd be really cool if you could maybe talk to the audience a bit about how Pulsar and the Flink technologies and how they work together.
Sure. Very excited to be here, and also very excited to be the first partner of the entire Powered by Ververica program. We'll chat more later, but get started is, I think you asked about how Pulsar and Flink work together. I try to kind of give people who don't know about Pulsar a lot. Essentially, is you can think about it another Kafka, but it's more like combining the messaging queue capability and Kafka capability together into a multi-tenant environment with the kind of Kafka API compatible API interfaces there. So you can still using Kafka, but you can also have all the flexibility using different things. So how does this work together? So Flink is a powerful data processing engine. So it's powerful, but to make it meaningful is you need data. And the way how get the data in, essentially, I think everyone think about get data through Kafka, but you now have a different way is getting data into Pulsar. So by combining a streaming data system together with a stream processing engine, essentially you're creating these real-time stream processing end-to-end solutions for our customers. So essentially how this can work together. People know about how Flink works with Kafka. You know how Flink works with Pulsar. But I'm not going to kind of take more time on details there. I do have a talk tomorrow. I work with one of our customers. We present a kind of story, how to use Pulsar and Flink together for real-time vehicle profile management. So if you're interested in Pulsar in detail, come to the talk. My talk is at 10:45 tomorrow morning. So excited to see maybe everyone there.
Yeah. Get into the app, put a tick next to it, and build your agenda. Now, the next question. There's a colleague, Yanis, who I'm sure many of you in the room know, works in Ben's team. Ever since I joined Ververica, he's been telling me about one thing, and that's Apache Pymon. So CJ, I wanted to ask you about Pymon, and when we add it into the mix, it really amplifies the power of these technologies. Could you show us how that works?
Sure. I think it's a little bit kind of the history here is like about 5 years ago when I came to Flink Forward, my talk is about unified like stream processing with Pulsar. I think the topic there is everyone know about Flink is a unified processing engine, but at the same time, you need to work with batch data, you need to work with streaming data. So how to combine these two together is you are not just using Kafka only, you need some sort of a batch system. And the best way, I think, in the entire world, the best batch system is Lakehouse nowadays. Pymon, like any other open standard format, Iceberg, Delta Lake, and I need to mention these a couple of different standards there. It's just like we work with these different Lakehouse like vendors there. Essentially, is if you're thinking about streaming, it's more like combining Kafka, Flink together with a streaming data processing stack. But if you want to take the entire stack into next level, you need to putting into these more like batch-oriented data storage, and where you should not use on any closed source format, you should use with an open standard format. So in that way, you can create a really open standard, what I usually call data foundation. For the now, kind of we talk about AI. It should be a data foundation for AI. So you can combining both data streaming, data lakehouse, with a powerful stream processing engine like Flink, they can do both batch and streaming together. So this is complete the entire picture as a like modern data foundation for building AI, building stream processing, even building batch like process jobs. I do have a kind of a conversation with Feng last night. It's about 2 to 3 hour conversation talking about data streaming and lakehouses. I think we have one common thing is no matter what, nowadays, you need to build based on open standard. So you're using Kafka as an open like streaming protocol. You're using Pymon, Iceberg, Delta Lake as an open storage format, and Flink became the open API for the compute. By combining all this together, you create a really cool unified data foundation there.
Yeah, sounds very interesting, and I'm keen to see how it all pans out. And to follow on to that, obviously, again, selfishly, I'd love to hear from the Power BI program how Ververica and Stream Native are planning to work together.
Yeah, so I think Stream Native and Ververica have a long history of partnership. I still remember, Stefan is probably not here, like 5 years or 6 years ago, I sent an email to Stefan. Okay, I said, Flink is a unified batch and streaming processing engine, and Pulsar has a really good foundation with tier storage story, and we should work together. And that kind of opening up the entire history of working together with Flink community and also with the company. And eventually landed with a really good kind of a product partnership with Power BI. And thank you for coming up the entire cool names about the Power BI program. So going back to the question, essentially there are two parts of that kind of story. There is, one is, Flink is a really powerful engine, but I think a lot of panelists, also speakers talking about is Flink is also very complicated to like manage, run, and also kind of maybe operate. And Feng has a 50 engineer team, or maybe now hundreds of engineer team operating that. Our customers doesn't have that much engineering resources that can kind of run Flink. So in that way, how we can bring this computation technology to our customer is to partner with the origin creators of Flink and with the expertise and also with the Ververica engine that is able to kind of helping our customers streamline the deployment, managing the Flink, and be able to 100% full leverage the power of Flink capability. So that's the first part of the partnership. The second part of the partnership is, I think, a lot of people talking about cost. I mean, streaming is a really powerful and valuable technology, but streaming is extremely expensive, especially if you're running on public cloud, because every cloud provider charge networking. So if you go back to your AWS bills, you will see 90% of your bill is actually coming from networking. And if we are using, we are providing a Kafka compatible solution for our customers, and if our customer want to kind of using Flink, they either self-manage themselves or bring third-party vendors there. So if you want to bring third-party vendors, you need to kind of looking into setting up complicated networking. You need to dealing with the inter-AZ traffic, inter-account traffic. It's super expensive. And the only way things can work out is that we can bring the computation closer to the data. So the entire idea that we bring up is working with Ververica is that we bring the compute into the same VPC where data is running, so you can making sure all the both your data and also compute can sit in one VPC, and it's actually follow the entire concept of bring your own cloud, making sure you have the fully ownership for your both own data and as well as your compute. So that's kind of complete the second part of the Power by program. And together, we're kind of giving people a more cost-effective solution is by bringing all these technologies together and also a much streamlined experience using Flink together with Posa. Yeah.
I think it's going to be really exciting, and it's great to have you here. And next week, there's another event.
Yes. So we do at the same time. While I think our team came here for Flink Forward. If you want to chat more, we also have a booth in the exhibit hall. We do also have an event in San Francisco called Data Streaming Summit. Originally, it was called Posa Summit. And this year, we see you are not just using a technology alone. You need to kind of bring many different technologies like Lakehouse, AI, Kafka, Flink, all together to complete the data streaming journey. So we're kind of expanding the scope. If you are in San Francisco Bay Area, you are all welcome to attend the Data Streaming Summit. If you need a discount code VIP tickets, come to our booth. I'll give you VIP tickets.
This is being recorded, CG, and I believe it's also going out on live stream. So get emailing. Ben, any final thoughts from you before we invite Karen back to the stage to wrap things up?
Oh, sure thing. Firstly, I'll just echo that. I will also be at the Data Streaming Summit with CJ. We'll be doing some fun things together next week. It is a long flight, so do be warned. So just to kind of wrap on all this, we're kind of seeing an emergence of themes. It's going from the old school approach of data lived in boxes, data had to be transferred in big chunks, data had to be processed overnight. Teams passed things between each other on notes scribbled and didn't really have that kind of shift-left mentality kind of ingrained yet. Almost the whole approach has shifted over time. And as we've kind of brought the cloud into the picture, there's that need to be efficient, that need to be careful about how you're doing things right, but then also to bring the ecosystem together. It's not one tool, it's lots of tools. It's open standards, it's open capabilities, and it's the ability for you to meet a customer need where it is, rather than just trying to move them to where you want them to be. And this is kind of the opening theme here of it's not just about the technology, it's about the outcome, it's about the ecosystem.
Yeah, fantastic.
100%.
Yeah. Well, guys, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. Obviously, it's the first day of conference. You're all going to be around over the next couple of days. I'd invite anybody in the audience to come up. They're incredibly approachable. They've got a lot of experience between them, and thank you on behalf of myself for joining us and for being part of the Flink Forward celebrations 10-year anniversary. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben and Chris.
Thanks, you two, for giving me a short break. They did a really good job staying on task and on time. For those of you who work with them and speak with them a lot, you know I'm speaking the truth here. So for any of you that are out in the audience that want to learn more, or if you want to continue the conversation with any of the folks that you saw on stage, make sure to visit the Ververica partner booth and the expo hall where all of our sponsors are also. And you can chat with everyone in that room as well for the duration of the conference. So, okay, the present has been a hard break or a hard time. I'm ready for something. If you guys want to stand up for a moment, take a stretch, don't leave. We're going to get started really quickly again, but feel free. And yeah, little dance break, little stretch break. We'll bring the next ones up on stage.
Please welcome Jacques Wu, Head of Flink SQL at Alibaba Cloud, Apache Flink, PMC member and committer.
Thank you.
Jacques, thank you so much for joining us today. We're now going to talk a little bit about the future of Flink, starting out with you. And I believe you're going to share about Fluss with us today and the rest of the future of Apache Flink. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. Maybe I'm the only speaker who has a slide on the keynote. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Jack from Alibaba Cloud. And I have been working on Flink SQL for over 8 years. And in the 8 years, I have put a lot of effort in Flink to make the streaming process easy to use and cheap and powerful. However, there are still many challenges that is not resolved. And we found that it is not enough to resolve the problems just from the Flink side, because many problems come from the storage. So I started to look into the problems, the storage problems, since 2 years ago. So everyone knows Flink and Kafka are twins, and they are the typical. They have been the typical architecture of real-time streaming analytics. The de facto standard of streaming processing plus the de facto standard of streaming storage doesn't make things better. Well, Kafka is excellent as a log-based storage, but it falls short in some certain key areas, especially when it comes to the streaming analytics. So there are 4 key problems when using Kafka in streaming analytics. First of all, for a data warehouse, it is very common to perform some data fixes, but Kafka doesn't support update. So it is very difficult to correct data on Kafka. And it forces Flink to do the updates for Kafka. That means if you want to process Kafka topic data in Flink, you have to, Flink have to consume records from Kafka topic and do the deduplication on the primary key to ensure the correction of aggregations and joins and the operations. So the deduplication in Flink is very cost a lot of Flink resources. And every time you want to consume a Kafka topic, you have to pay cost. You have to pay the cost again. And the second problem is it is very hard to debug data in Kafka because Kafka is not queryable. You have to dump Kafka topic into a OLAP system like ClearHouse and perform ad hoc queries on the ClearHouse. But that makes things very complex and fragile, and it increases a lot of costs. Thirdly is the historical data processing. Kafka is not good at the historical data processing because it just retains data for a few days. Also, Kafka introduced tiered storage in the community to address the long-term data needs. But if you want to consume the historic data from Kafka tiered storage, it will disrupt your live traffic and makes the system very unstable. And lastly is the networking cost. Networking cost is can account a majority of your Kafka infra cost on cloud, but most consumed currents of your Kafka copy are not used in your streaming analytics jobs. Take Alibaba as an example. 49 currents are not used in more than 20,000 Flink SQL jobs in Alibaba. But you have to pay 100% networking cost for every time you consume the Kafka topic. So it is a waste of money, yeah. So we can see that Kafka is designed for streaming events, but not for streaming analytics. Kafka stores data in raw format like CSV, JSON, Avro, protobuf. They are very good at and it's very efficient for the streaming events use case. But analytics requires to push down projections, to push down the filters, to skip reading unnecessary data as much as possible. But raw format is not good at in this case. And the column format is preferred here. So we can see interesting. It is very interesting if we draw a 4-quadrant here. The left side is operational estate, and the right side is analytical estate. And other side is table storage, upside is stream storage. You can see that in the left side, for example, the operational database, MySQL, Postgres are using raw-based format, and operational streaming storages are also using raw format storages. But in the right side, in the analytical estate, analytical storages like Iceberg, Snowflake are both column storages. And we can see there is a missing part in the quadrant. That is the streaming storage for analytics. And no surprise, it should be column storage. So we started to develop a new streaming storage project to fill the gap and to resolve the problems mentioned before. Especially to fix the problems in Flink. So we named this project Flink Unified Streaming Storage. And a short name, Fluss, which comes from the first letters. And very interesting, Flink is a German word meaning fast, and Fluss is also a German word meaning river. We hope Fluss can support large-scale data moving in motion and flow into lakes like a river. So here is an overview architecture of the Fluss. In a nutshell, Fluss is a streaming storage supports streaming read and streaming write in sub-second latency. And it is a columnar storage that is built on top of Apache Arrow. And so it supports excellent streaming projection pushdown. We can achieve 10 times streaming read performance improvement compared to Kafka if most columns are not used. Besides, it also supports high throughput updates, and the updates can generate change logs in real time. And the generated change logs can be consumed by Flink without any deduplications. Most importantly, Fluss supports lakehouse as its tiered storage. That means the hot data is kept in local for performance, and the cold data will be tiered to lakehouse storage like Pymon, Iceberg, Delta Lake, in PAC format to save in for a very long-term data. And query engines like Trino, Starrock, Spark can directly access the storage, so lakehouse storage, to perform batch analytics. And of course, Flink can do more with Fluss. Flink can read union of the whole data in local and the whole data in lakehouse. That is called hybrid source in Flink, which is first read the batch data and switch to the streaming data with excited-once semantics. So the lakehouse makes Fluss to support queryable and can efficiently to process historical data because the historical data has been stored and read in a batch way and no disrupt to the live traffic. So I want to talk more about the future of Fluss and Flink. The purpose of Fluss is going to help Flink to do streaming analytics better. So first of all, we want to open source it, and this might happen in the end of this year. And once it is open sourced, we want to work with Flink community together to make the stream analytics easy to use and lower cost and higher performance. For example, we want to support more push-down optimizations and upgrade the current rule-based optimizer in Flink SQL to a cost-based optimizer with the help of the statistics in the Fluss tables. Maybe, for example, to address the stream join pain point of the largest state with delta join with Fluss. So, and finally, Fluss is the last piece of stringhouse architecture. Stringhouse is an unified string and batch architecture proposed last year, and Fluss will be the data streaming layer in the Fluss to connect the data lake and the Flink to build a truly unified architecture. So, this is a very short introduction of the new project of Fluss. We hope the idea of Fluss can help organizations to have a better streaming analytics solutions. And if you want to learn more about Fluss, and here is a QR code about introducing the Fluss. And I will share more details in my breakout session in this afternoon. And if you have any questions, and welcome to listen and discuss. Thank you.
Jark, that's amazing stuff. Jark will be popping up throughout the conference. He'll actually be at the expert PMC panel that's happening tomorrow morning right here and at breakfast. So he's available for any questions that you might have about this. Thank you so much, Jark, and we'll see you soon throughout the conference.
Thank you. Bye.
So I think now it's time for us to go ahead and get a little bit more of the picture of what the future of Apache Flink will look like specifically for Ververica also. So
please welcome Ben Gamble, Field CTO, back to the stage, and Igor Kesic, Head of Product at Ververica.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining me on stage today. Ben, I've seen you a few times.
Yes, so I guess it could be by now.
Yeah. So I've heard that the two of you have an exciting introduction that you're ready to share. The stage is yours. Need this?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Of course.
So, well, I'm sure some of you have seen me before, and it's great to be up here with Igor again, and hopefully you enjoyed that Jacques' announcement of Fluss and what's next. If any of you all were wondering what I was hinting at in training yesterday, this was it. But yeah, let's talk about what we are doing now. And this is kind of the hint slide. So, let's talk about the challenges we've been facing over the last few years. So, a big thing about, you heard in the panel earlier, was about cloud economics. And cloud economics at scale get extra hard. Everyone has an EDP commit. Everyone has those lovely long multi-year deals where they get their N% off. But it never quite all pans out because things like networking come up. Things like storage come up. Things like that VPC bill or that private networking bill. These things just sort of creep up as you see those incidental costs. It's like one of those budget airlines, if you're familiar. Yes, it's 20 euros to fly, but then there's airport fees, tax, luggage. Oh, your bag didn't fit because they shrunk the thing again. These are what cloud economics starts to feel like when you really get down to it. And particularly with the end of the zero interest era, we continue to get that strong feel of cost optimization. For a while, it was do more with more. Then it was do more with less. And now it is you have less, do more anyway. And as that kind of focus on optimization hits, there's a need to do more and more and more to make sure you are really focused on those unit economics. Yes, there's a lot of the themes will recur this kind of next few days is around this idea of doing the right thing with the right amount of resource at the right time. And these all get tighter and tighter because as compliance requirements grow, GDPR was just step one. As like privacy requirements, multi-cloud requirements, particularly if you're doing banking in the Far East these days and particularly in Australia, you need to be in multiple clouds. These rules are driving a lot of what we have to do next in the technology itself. And the cloud itself is more complicated. You get increasing numbers of clouds, increasing numbers of tools, increasing numbers of formats, and you just have to cope with it as you go. And along with that, there's cyber. Cyber threats were something we could politely ignore for a while, but as the attacks have got greater, and more importantly, customers now know that this is a thing that happens, as it's become a serious issue, and the increasing number of breaches. And finally, legislation has caught up with it, so there are now real fines and real consequences for having issues. You've got to meet all this stuff when it happens. And sadly, you've got to do it while making your CFO happy. There's nothing you can do these days without having an answer to that simple cost of what does it cost us, and will it make us any money? So let's talk about the dilemma. You've got security on one side, where the only thing that's going to happen is you've got to get better and better and better. You've got efficiency, where you need to go faster to make your customers happy, to meet increasing demands, and to stay ahead of your competition, all while not spending too much. And then flexibility. You can't work with just T-shirt sizes where to double the amount of RAM in the machine, you've got to pay for the CPU you don't need, or to double the memory on your cluster, suddenly you're paying for extra RAM and extra CPU and extra networking, which doesn't matter. The ability to have the thing that meets your requirements at the cost you can pay and with the security in mind is quite critical. And as you kind of get deeper and deeper into this and your systems grow, and costs tighten or competition gets more fierce, this is something that never really goes away. It continues to go round each of these kind of points of the triangle as you must meet each one, as you have no option to be secure. If you're not efficient, your company loses money. And if you're not being flexible, you'll find that inevitably someone's going to ask a question. Why are we paying for this? Because it doesn't make sense. Why isn't this on the cloud we need it? Why isn't this in our VPC? And let's bring it all together. So most software started self-managed, and I know a lot of you all already manage your own Flink clusters, manage your own Kafka clusters, manage your own databases, because sometimes the compliance requirements are too high, because you have the in-house teams, you've made that investment. And it gives you that full control. And on the other side, we have self-service. These are your SaaS offerings, and the ability to have everything you don't want all the way from you. You've shifted all the way left, and had the ability to have your data and just your product managed. But then when you come back to the middle, This is where BYOC comes in. And this has been the announcement kind of thing everyone's doing right now, but this is our version, because when you meet that middle ground, it's having the control, having the upfront planning, meeting your requirements, while still giving you that kind of self-service removal of concerns, reducing the toil involved in managing a service at scale with guarantees and SLAs. And to kind of zoom in a bit, this is how we kind of bring Ververica Cloud and the power of that into your VPC, into your environment, and give you the ability to make it all work. It's about making the right choices. A lot of the choices we make when we buy software, when we choose the technology, when we go to open source, are about where are the trade-offs? What do we have to do to make this right? And over to you, Igor.
Thank you, Ben, for laying out the challenges and the dilemma. Great introduction. So I will tackle a flexibility dilemma first. It starts with essential piece of things. So it's centralized control plane, where you get a single pane of glass to do your self-service, centralized billing. You can do usage-based consumption there, pay-as-you-go. Overall, streamline your deliveries and patching. And everything that software as a service offer you, this sweet stuff. On the other hand, you have distributed data plane, and it has to, or it resides in the user cloud, and a user cloud region of choice. So that's the flexibility core for you. Control and data plane are obviously connected globally or secure internet connection. Right? That gives you the full flexibility. The second dilemma is the efficiency. So how do you go about that? The first piece of the puzzle is, again, going back to the distributed data plane, where user actually chooses what's most efficient for him and most cost optimized, a region or a cloud, right? So that's the first piece of the puzzle. The second piece of the puzzle, we want our users to actually reuse their investments, right? They already committed, as you said, long year commitment. So for that, we wanted to build a set of our data plane software services as a set of lightweight, Kubernetes native microservices that will fit in. Right? So in essence, we will allow our users to fit, choose, or reuse whatever they already have from the infrastructure. That's the flexibility dilemma. Now, the biggest dilemma for me is the security, as you said. The cyber security landscape is evolving. It has really, really new type of threats that it has to tackle. So this is where the rise of so-called zero trust paradigm appears. So zero trust paradigm, in one short sentence, is you never trust, you always verify. Sounds simple, right? So this is basically what brought some of our main core design principles that we brought in to bring your own cloud, right? So I'll start with a couple of them. So we have essentially each of our workspace completely isolated, which means that it has dedicated agent, dedicated authentication and authorization services, and dedicated storage service. So that means, literally, in the zero trust paradigm, if there is a breach, it's contained. Very simple. That's the first piece of the puzzle. The second core principle is, where do you keep your agent, right? Where do you control this communication toward the control plane? So the agent sits in user cloud account and user cloud, is completely exposed and connects as a client to our control plane. This means that user essentially can have all the visibility and observability on this agent while taking all the security policies, so basically controlling this connectivity. That's the second piece of the puzzle here. The third piece of the puzzle, I mean, one of the big primary focuses for us is data sovereignty, right? We really wanted to focus on that. So where do you start with that? It's very simple. You start with actually keeping user data in the user cloud account. Very simple, right? In our case, we only handle metadata in our control plane. So that's the first part. But the second part is, I think, quite important as well. So each workspace, like I said, has a dedicated storage service, right? That storage service, we want users to take full ownership of, right? The users own the storage, basically the physical storage service. We wanted also users to control the access policy to the storage, so not us, right? That's the second piece of the puzzle. And yes, at the end, what is most important for us, we don't want, on the zero trust paradigm, any elevated privileges to control infrastructure, right? So you don't go that way. That altogether combines flexibility, efficiency, and security dilemma with the right choices that we make, hopefully, where user actually takes full control of security in their own cloud. And by the way, please check the unified streaming data platform, scan the QR code, check our Ververica cloud managed service, visit us at our booth, and we can talk about bring your own cloud.
So for us, this is really about trying to bring many, many months and years of research into how to do this right. Long years of experience running this in some of the most tight compliance regions for some of the names you'd recognize in the finance industry to everyone else. Zero trust at the core sounds simple, and Igor is great at making it sound easy. But when you see the level of discussion, the level of work, and the kind of level of thinking required to make that propagate through the whole stack, it gives us a bit of a unique proposition here to give you the trust in us, because it means you don't have to. It means you only trust what you want to trust.
That's it.
Thank you.
Nice, guys. So that is very exciting news, up there with the announcement last year about Streamhouse that was made at Flink Forward in Seattle. This is a big accomplishment for the engineering team also. It's great to see the number of deployment options that are now available for Ververica's unified streaming data platform. So, and yes, Igor, you make that sound very easy when it's very not. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me up here. I'll trade you. You're welcome to take that one.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, well, we're nearing the end of the opening session.
Karen, I think there's one more thing.
There's one more? We're full of surprises today. Okay, well, this just in, it sounds like there's one more announcement that's coming from the Flink community. So, let's bring Alex and Feng back on stage. Okay, you two. I've heard you have some interesting and exciting news to share also. So, yeah.
Yes, as you may know, I'm not an official PMC or anything in the community, so I had to bring somebody who is. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about something I heard about 20 minutes ago. Somebody mumbled Flink 2.0.
Yes.
I think that's something we should talk about, isn't it?
Yeah. Very glad to share something about the next generation version of Apache Flink. As I think Flink 2.0, I think will be the new beginning of Apache Flink in the next 10 years. And of course, this big version 2.0 is bring the biggest change and a very important milestone in recent year. So of course, there are lots of features, hundreds of features in this new version, lots of improvements, new features. But I think, in my opinion, there are three major changes in this milestone. So firstly, I think the 2.0 bring the fundamentally architecture change in Apache Flink. As you know, Apache Flink is a stateful stream compute engine, not a stateless. So it is a data technology not only about the stream computation, but also about the storage, because there's lots of state data inside Flink. In Flink 1.0, this state stay in RocksDB. on local disk. So this, I think this architecture brings a lot of troubles, especially in the job reskilling and failure recovery. Yes, not very, very good experience for the developers and admins of Flink cluster. So in Flink 2.0, the Flink community fundamentally changed it, and the state management system chose a new architecture, the disaggregate storage architecture. So that means in Flink 2.0, Flink will be totally cloud native. Yeah, I think that is the first change. Yeah, and I think the second one is about Lakehouse. Yeah, so because Lakehouse is a very, very hot topic in the world, in the data world now. So in 2.0, Flink 2.0, Flink will be better integrated in this new architecture. So we can use Flink to do the real-time injection in Lakehouse, and then do the ETL in the Lakehouse. We can use Flink to accelerate the data movement in Lakehouse to make Lakehouse faster. As well, we can also leverage the unified computing capability for both streaming and batch. So I think on Lakehouse architecture, we can further unlock the potential of Flink. So we can use Flink to process the data on Lakehouse in real-time mode and offline mode at the same time. Just only one engine, one SQL. The user could describe their business logic in the unified Flink SQL and set different data freshness. That means different requests, different requirement. So you can set data freshness to 1 minute, maybe 1 hour. Then Flink could automatically, intelligently make a decision about how to run it in stream mode or in batch mode. But the user, a developer, don't care about the details inside Flink. Yeah, I think that is the biggest change, a very important feature. The final one, I think, is about AI. Yeah, because AI is eating the world now. Everyone talk about AI. So, and in the AI world, there are much more data in the future. So I think in Flink 2.0, the Flink community, the committers, the PMC member add a lot of new AI features in Flink. That's quite very new. For example, maybe the AI functions, and we can call in Flink job, the developer can call the LLM models, do some predictions in Flink streaming pipeline. Yeah, and also add features, cool features for AI. I think we're looking forward to it. The last but not least, Flink 0.0 preview version will be released today. So feel free to download it and try it. Thank you.
So yeah, well, I have to say thank you to everyone who's contributing to Flink 2.0, the PMCs and the developers, etc. And I think we should give those guys another round of applause, please. Because I see some people in here. But yeah, leading up to this conference, talking about it, I was asking Fong, well, that's all nice technical stuff, and it's like the newest feature on the 3rd level of the UI. Why are we doing it? And the simple answer is because it's helping us to save cost, it's helping us to be quicker, it's just helping us to be more efficient. And that's my businessman's view on things. Why should I do it? Because it helps me save money, as Ben was alluding to earlier. So again, thank you to all of the guys investing your brain power and finger power into coding all of the great things. I'm not sure, do we have a QR code to Flink?
We do. Let me go back. We've got a blog that's been placed up.
Yeah. So, yeah, importing the good things from China. QR codes are everywhere now. Yeah, go and knock yourself out, read it, and get up to speed with it, I'd say.
Nice.
And with that, I would say I have no more value, and I'll see you later.
Perfect. Thank you both
Thank
so much. I'm all for that. Okay, I'm good with surprises if that's the surprise. Any more surprises? Oh, good. Okay, so everyone, thank you so much for taking this journey with us through the journey of the past, present, and future of Apache Flink. Before we all head out to lunch, which I'm sure you're all excited about, and head out to the breakout sessions that are starting this afternoon, I'd like to give you a little bit of that quick housekeeping things to help you experience everything that you can over the rest of the next 2 days. You've probably all found your Wi-Fi password on the back of your QR code on your badge. Flink Forward absolutely would not be possible without sponsors. So can we get a round of applause for our sponsors, please? In addition, we have a couple of special events that are coming to the main stage. We've mentioned them throughout the opening session. Don't miss the expert AI panel that will be here this evening. That's going to be fun because right afterwards, the sponsors are going to be hosting cocktail hour and past dinner in the expo hall also, so stick around for that this evening. Tomorrow morning, you can head in at breakfast to meet the Flink PMC members. They'll be very identifiable in their own swag shirt. And then directly after that, at 9 o'clock, we start here with the PMC expert panel. You won't want to miss hearing what they have to say about all the things you've heard on stage and more. Also, make sure that you join us for Flink Fest that is happening tomorrow evening. We've actually rented out one of the top clubs in Berlin for this private event. You're not going to want to miss the food, the fun, and the exclusive swag that you may have seen some people already wandering around in. We'll tell you more at closing session tomorrow. For now, if you have any questions, please don't miss anyone wearing one of these shirts or stop by the accreditation and registration desk. And if you can help us spread the news of Apache Flink by using the hashtag FlinkForward and Apache Flink on your social posts from all the experiences you're having over the next 2 days, let's grow the community together. With that said, let's take what we've learned from the past, what we've done in the present, and let's go make the future of Apache Flink together. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Karen. That's a wrap.